So thank you very much for inviting me to explain you our project that is called e-PACIBARD, is an acronym. And today I would like to be presented not as a child neurologist or a clinical researcher on rare diseases, but as a coordinator of a participative research project. Our model has been applied in Lowe syndrome. You can see the logo here on the left. This logo with the big eyes, this is because Lowe syndrome is a multisystemic disorder, but they all have cataracts when they are newborn, and they are operated, and they all have thick glasses, so these faces are pretty similar because they have these big eyes. So this is our logo. Or in the future, maybe we can work together with the CDG community, but also with the neurodegeneration due to brain iron accumulation diseases. They are very interested in share this new model. I will talk about collective intelligence, mathematics, stars, games, crowd-sourced health research studies, the patchwork philosophy for rare diseases, the e-PACIBARD model, and finally our applied model, our experience that we call I Love You. The first big example of collective intelligence is Wikipedia. As you can see, in Wikipedia said collective intelligence emerges from the collaboration and competition of many individuals. This is, if we put together all the patients with their personal abilities, professional skills, the doctors, physicians, the basic researchers, and the clinicians, and the clinical researchers, maybe we can merge this collective intelligence for rare diseases. The first effort in collective intelligence was the Polymath blog. This is a collaboration among mathematicians to solve important and difficult mathematical problems by coordinating many people, some of them volunteers all around the world, to communicate to each other on finding the best route to the solution for these problems. It was founded in January 2009 by Tim Gowers. He's a professor in Cambridge, in the University of Cambridge. And he posted a single problem, and asked his readers to post partial ideas and partial progress toward a solution. And this experiment resulted in a new way to answer a difficult problem. And in only 37 days, he had the solution for problems that during dozens of years had remained unsolved. Going to the stars, Galaxy Zoo is an online astronomy project which invited people, volunteers again, to assist in the classification of large number of galaxies. It is an example of citizen science, inviting the public to help in scientific research. I will explain to you an experiment. They compare the map performed by people, volunteers, and a star map, with a map elaborated by the NASA, the NASA scientists, and they found that the amount of mistakes was pretty similar. This is very nice. Getting closer to the biomedicine, there is a nice example, solving puzzles for science. Foldit is an online puzzle video game about protein folding. The game is a part of an experimental research project developed by the University of Washington, and the objective of the game is to fold the structure of selected proteins, difficult chains of amino acids. And the highest scoring solutions are analyzed by researchers. And finally, scientists can use these solutions to solve real-world problems. And this is important enough to be published in a very high impact factor journal, such as Nature. And you can see here that Foldit players are among the authors. Getting more closer in the neuro biomedical issues, we have the International HapMap project. This is an organization that aims to develop the haplotype map of the human genome, which will describe the common patterns of human genetic variation. And the information produced by the project is made freely available to researchers around the world. And this is because in the International HapMap project, a lot of countries collaborated, a lot of researchers collaborated. This is, they give the data, they share the data to get some data. So this is a philosophy, a pathway present called shareism. We need to share to get, to follow the way. The next step are the crowdsourced health research studies. It's like a natural evolution due to the nexus of three contemporary trends, in words of Dr. Joan. The first one is citizen science. This is non-professional trained individuals conducting science-related activities. The second one is the crowdsourcing. This is the possibility to use the web-based technologies to recruit project participants, as we do with Facebook, perhaps. And finally is the Medicine 2.0 or the Health 2.0. This is the active participation of individuals, patients, caregivers in their healthcare, particularly using Web 2.0 technologies. The main example for crowdsourced health research studies is Patients Like Me. Patients Like Me is a patients network with more than 1 million patients. On Patients Like Me, people connect with others who have the same disease or condition and track and share their own experiences. And in this process of sharing, they are generating data about the real-world nature of disease that help researchers, pharmaceutical companies, etc. And in fact, they have a lot of publications, and even more, they have clinical assays performed in this network. So what about rare diseases? Well, in 2011, Paul Weeks, is the founder of Patients Like Me, said that he wanted to have more than 1 million patients with rare diseases. But this is not the fact, and I will show you some data later. The other beautiful crowdsourced health research study, in my opinion, is Cancer Commons. Cancer Commons aims to provide patients and their physicians with the knowledge needed to select the best available therapies for their a specific type of cancer and trials, and continuously update that knowledge based on each patient's response. Which is the main difference between Patients Like Me and Cancer Commons? In Patients Like Me, patients put experiences, knowledge, and feelings. But in Cancer Commons, the researchers and clinicians can do too. So the data comes from the patients, but comes from the doctors and from the researchers. So the amount of data and the quality of data is bigger. If we take a look into the PubMed publications regarding crowdsourced health research studies, we see that in 2011, there were only 10 studies. In 2012, there were 31 studies. And only in the first semester of 2013, we have 37 studies. This is crowdsourced health research studies are a new way to develop medicine, to increase the knowledge. But if we take a look on rare diseases, no one of these papers were related to rare diseases, and even more, none of them to inborn errors of metabolism. Let me say some words only about Guia Metabolica. Maybe some of you already know this web is the web that we have in our hospital, aiming to create an interface for people involved in inborn errors of metabolism, trying to facilitate access to information, easy information, and contact with professionals and other patients, and offering a platform to develop these support groups that we need in rare diseases. It's a frequently updated interactive website in Spanish. By the moment, maybe in 2 or 3 months will be in English and Portuguese, which offer clinical and scientific information with simple language, easy language, tips and recommendations for the daily life, specific research for those diseases with controlled diets, and tales and games for children. Well, if we compare Patients Like Me with Guia Metabolica, it's an easy comparison, we see that for Tay-Sachs disease, they have 3 patients. We have 169. Even for the more prevalent disease, phenylketonuria, they have registered 4 patients, and we have 389. For CDG, yesterday I record this, who has CDG at Patients Like Me? 3 patients. In Guia Metabolica, maybe you can see it there, we have 2,015 interested people, mainly patients. Normally 85% are families or patients. And in RareConnect, they have more than 100 patients. So we have the people to perform this collective intelligence in rare diseases, and particularly in CDG. Just joking, think about metabolic commons. It's like Cancer Commons, but for metabolics, where researchers and clinicians can upload the data, and patients and caregivers that have a lot of knowledge can also submit their data. But in words of Tenenbaum, is the founder of Cancer Commons, a major hurdle for the project is getting researchers to supply their data to the site, to move their mind, rather than hold out for a career-making article in a peer-reviewed journal. We need to share, even when we are not going to be able to be the first author in a publication. So we follow the patchwork philosophy. This is little pieces, putting all these little pieces together. The options are infinite, like the collective intelligence. And thanks to the Web 2.0, collective intelligence have no frontiers. We are all together around the world. So say patients, doctors, and researchers, we will be stronger together, so work together. There is an imbalance regarding options, possibilities for rare diseases. On the left side, you can see all the bad things, the determinants for research, financial factors, the lack of access and creation of registries, homogeneous exhaustive registries, biobanks, researchers, patients' participation, and the situation is even worse in ultra-rare diseases. But we have some good things. For example, patients with rare diseases are a model of e-patient because they are the most active user of the internet due to the fact that they need to socialize in some way, and the only way is using the internet. So using the Web 2.0 is very useful for them to coping with diseases, reducing feelings of solitude, and finding other people. In Guía Metabólica, we have seen this evolution. First of all, when the caregiver has the bad news of the disease, he goes to internet trying to find a source of information. The second one is trying to elaborate, to conform a support group. And finally, he is ready to participate, to offer all his knowledge. Second one is the rare diseases e-caregivers profile, because they are normally aged between the 30s and the 50s. This is in e-health what we call digital native. This is people that normally is able to manage with the internet very easily. The emotional adherence is the strongest because having a child, the maternal or paternal filial association link is the strongest. And finally, living with a chronic disease in the childhood. Perhaps in the adulthood, you can tolerate or you can admit a chronic disease, but in childhood is a cause of frustration, and you need to make questions and to find solutions and to fight. So these e-caregivers are going to be very adhered to any initiative to research. And finally, the benefits of involving patients in research, being equal in an active collaboration, as we have said today. It already say that, but also Lancet, a New England Journal of Medicine, in their editorials, in recent editorials, are talking about this. We need to incorporate patients because it will take not only benefits for research, but also emotional benefits and changes in the mental representation of disease. They are doing the best that they can for the patients, for the children. So we decided to explore new collaborative models for research, aiming to, first of all, increase medical knowledge of rare diseases, natural history of disease, the genotype-phenotype correlation, using the collective intelligence. The second one is to improve patients' empowerment, the perception of self-efficacy, and the perceived social support, creating this huge group through their direct participation in research. And finally, to develop a model to take advantage of all these e-patients' potential in several aspects of biomedical research: fundraising, technical collaboration, and direct help to medical research, recruitment of patients, monitoring of drugs, or whatever. So this is like a triangle. In the one side, we have the biomedical advance of rare diseases. On the other side, we have the psychological influence on rare diseases. The diffusion is always essential in any rare diseases. And everything in a very sustainable manner, because it's very cheap having the collaboration of everyone. We think that there is a virtuous circle that would maintain this sustainability of the research. Collective intelligence would increase scientific knowledge. This scientific knowledge would change the mental representation of disease in families with some psychological benefits. We are going to give them hope, engagement, empowerment, safe efficacy, and they are going to maintain their participation in this research, giving this sustainability and closing this virtuous cycle. I'm going to present you now the first results with Lowe syndrome, with only 10 families in Spain. Nowadays, we are 20 families in Spain. 12 families from Latin America, 14 families in Italy, and in September, some families, maybe 10 to 15 families from France, are going to incorporate to this model. The researchers developed some material, audiovisual material, chapters, and we send every 2 weeks one chapter explaining every single organ that is affected in Lowe syndrome. Perhaps the first one is genetics, the second one maybe the diagnosis, the third one is the ocular issues, the fourth one is the kidney issues. And then we beg the patients, the community with Lowe syndrome, to fulfill a survey, a questionnaire. But they also are our ambassadors because they have the task to invite their doctors. We prepare a letter explaining the project to their doctors, and their doctors are going to also complete these surveys, these questionnaires, because there are some questions that are so complicated for the families, like the EEG trace abnormalities. The families doesn't have to know about this. Which is the return of inversion for these doctors? The first one is the publication of papers. At this moment, there's no any publication with more than 7 patients with Lowe syndrome at any time in PubMed. But nowadays we have 10 patients, and in 9 months we are going to have 35. So this is a good publication. And the other one is establishing a physicians network. This is like a virtual center of reference where we can ask to each other what to do with our patients, because doctors in rare diseases are also alone. I mean, if I have a problem with one patient with Lowe syndrome, I don't know what to do. And I cannot go to the other door and say, can you help me with this? Because the experience is very, very few among the professionals. So making the physician networks, I think, would give them some security and a place to ask and feel secure in the decisions making. But think about if we translate this to Italian, to French, and we invite these people, all these communities all around the world, and they invited their doctors. So the network is going to be huge, and the cumulative experience and knowledge is going to be really huge. We want to create a database. We want to create biobanks. All our patients have now a sample of fibroblasts, and we have 2 teams working in basic research, and of course clinical assays. This is the future, hopefully not very late. We want to establish clinical guidelines homogeneous for all around the world, natural history of disease, genotype, phenotype, correlations, and of course never forget the benefits for the patients, enabling them empowerment, quality of life, and perceived health status. This is our posters at the ECM. You can see the one on the right are our first results on neurological aspects of these 10 patients with Lowe syndrome. But we have the same information for the kidneys, for the ophthalmological issues, and everything. And in summary, I would say that parents of children with rare diseases develop considerable expertise and are advocating for formal collaboration in research, and they are important sources of information. They are living 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with them. And in some aspects, maybe they know more than us. Enabling parents to reflect on and share with researchers their personal knowledge in ultra-rare diseases represents an effective strategy to advance in research, contributing to develop clinical guidelines and homogeneous medical assistance. But the main thing, importantly, this collaboration could reduce their suffering. Finally, this is my group, this is my research team. You can see here all the families, the psychologists, the doctors. We are more than 20 professionals in the research team. Then the families, they have worked so hard. They have been coordinated by Begoña, that is there, but we have a coordinator in Italy, another in France, so we need your help. We need really your help. And we began to work locally, but always thinking globally, because we really believe in common solutions for rare diseases, beginning with one disease, but making things possible to be adapted to other rare diseases. And hopefully, we are going to spread this model to CDD, NBAA, and other countries with Lowe syndrome in the next months. So thank you very much for your attention, and this CDD World Conference has been fantastic.